Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your home for nerd entertainment and sports talk, where your hosts, Brandon and Zach, hash out what's happening in video games and sports every week. Enjoy the show.
What's up, and welcome back to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode 67, the Reggie McKenzie episode. This podcast is presented by Sportszilla. I'm your host, Brandon. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Zach. What's up? Howdy. I stumbled for a second because I always say as always, but then I was about to say, but last time he wasn't here, and that's why you didn't hear the intro. And I was like, fuck, that makes no sense. That contradicts myself right out the gate.
As
we
always.
we lost all credibility.
As always, I never miss an episode.
He was here, whether we knew it or not.
Spirit.
Yeah, but you weren't here last episode whenever Justin and I had Danny Limelight on. And I fucked up the intro and outro music. My bad, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure we lost all of our listeners for that.
I think so. So we really got to bring him back this episode. We got to bring it strong. Unfortunately, everything happened in the world of sports this week. Even baseball decided to take some attention, and they're not even in season.
Yeah, no shit.
So our regular listeners know that we love baseball. We talk about baseball religiously during the summer. This is breaking news in our world. The Houston Astros are fucking cheaters.
Yep.
It started as speculation and questionable video and audio because it could have been doctored easily or whatever, but the evidence in the past week has just been piling on. What do you make of all this, Zach?
I mean, it's pretty hard to dispute the video evidence of the trash can banging, and you'll see the batter shake something off and then immediately swing on something if he doesn't hear the trash can be hit. You can't deny that. You know, there's no way they were just on a whim or whatever somehow able to read the signs without help from a video camera, somebody in the stands. That's yet to be determined, as far as I know, but they had help. There's no way you can do it that quickly.
Absolutely, I agree. And that is the illegal part of what all this is, because I've had a lot of people at work talking about, oh, well, they've been stealing signs in baseball since the 60s and stuff like that. Well, yes, stealing signs is a part of baseball as long as it's done organically, naturally, on the field. The players notice that the pitcher holds his hands at his belt when he's throwing a fastball, but at his chest when he's throwing a changeup.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that's legal in the game.
Yeah. Or if you've got a runner on second and he's got 20/10 vision and he can somehow see the catcher's signs and then reports them back once he gets back to the dugout, you can do that.
Yep. That's perfectly legal because that's done on the field. You have a player that was able to do that without the aid of technology.
Yep.
Using a camera in center field is definitely technology because then they're relaying it back to presumably the dugout. And it's funny, the 2017 Astros championship DVD seems to show a little computer station set up just at the bottom of the stairs leading to their dugout.
Jesus.
So it shows Jose Altuve running up the stairs, and it's talking about him or whatever in the footage, but it shows that little station just sitting there ominously, like, what's that laptop set up to do or whatever.
Yep.
And you know, what really brings all this into an even bigger focus is look at what the Astros have accomplished. 2017 World Series. They won that shit. Jose Altuve, 2017 MVP. And then 2018, they were eliminated by the Red Sox, which I have an idea on that as well, because Alex Cora was on the 2017 Astros team.
Yep.
He then went to coach the Red Sox. So when he was coaching the Red Sox in Houston, they couldn't employ those tactics because he would know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Therefore, the Astros only managed to win one game against the Red Sox. And then in 2019, they go on to the World Series and then lose in the World Series.
Yep.
And I don't know what this says about the World Series, but I think it might be important to note that, remember, in this World Series, the away team won every game.
Yep.
I wonder if enough murmurings were happening in the clubhouse and behind the scenes at MLB at that point that the Astros had to cut the shit out. And that's why they weren't able to secure a win in Houston for Game 6 or Game 7.
Yeah, that makes sense. They might have had more eyes on them when they were at Minute Maid than when they were elsewhere. Yeah, I can get that. And if you remember when the Astros played the Tampa Bay Rays, there was a big video clip going around that was showing, I can't remember his name, but it was a Rays pitcher. Whenever his hands were up by his letters on his jersey, it would be one pitch. And then another pitch, he would drop them. And they were just all over that. You see a video clip of Bregman telling somebody, hey, when hands are this, do this, and stuff like that. And that's totally fine.
That's baseball.
Yeah. But it seems like they do this kind of thing often. And whether they're doing it by natural means or by this crazy trash can bullshit that they were doing, it seems like they use these tactics a lot.
Right. Well, there's even a sort of Morse code, if you will. And this week I called in on the locker room talk podcast with Wallow and Chris, and they brought up the Astros cheating as well. And we talked about the code on there as well. And it was for a fastball, like you said earlier. Nobody made a sound. It was just, all right, here comes the pitch. I know it's a fastball. I'm going to grip it and rip it.
Mm-hmm.
For a slider or a curve, it would be one bang on the trash can. And for a changeup, it would be two bangs, two. And they also had a whistle incorporated in there somewhere too that I haven't figured out that part of the code or whatever, but there's a whistle that they do too. So they had a pretty intricate little code, and I mean, you would hear that do. And it's all right, here comes a changeup.
It was definitive too.
I mean, and it helped guys.
For sure.
And the stats clearly show it, and the evidence has been there this whole time. It's just nobody bothered to look, because who would? Other than some crazy stat nerd. But if you're an Astros team stat nerd, you're not going to rat them out that guys like Jake Marisnick batted almost over 300 at home and under 200 on the road. Like, he was a 163 batter on the road.
Right. That's way too big of a margin.
I mean, it is incredible. And then, you go into think 81 games they played at home. In 2019, they won 60 home games. They only won 103, I think, this year, 104. So that means on the road, they were an average team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And I think what can come of this is, obviously, I don't think they're going to. I don't think MLB will take away their World Series win or whatever, but there will be some sort of asterisk or something if they decide that they did indeed do this. And furthermore, I think if this is, if the MLB does come out and say that this was a legitimate cheating scandal or whatever, I think AJ Hinch gets a lifetime ban.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's going to happen. And I wonder, and I kind of worry if any of the other coaches that were involved in the 2017 team are going to face any punishment and repercussions because, as you know, I'm a Red Sox fan, and that would impact my team.
Absolutely.
Because Cora was there in 2017 when it all happened. But to me, him immediately wanting to leave Houston, and he even interviewed for other jobs while he was in the postseason with the Astros. So that tells me he wanted out of that place.
Yep.
He did not want to be there. He wanted to go somewhere where they played baseball right. And he got out. And then people have been saying to me, well, you know, the 2017 Red Sox also got cheating using the Apple Watches to relay information and all that stuff. Yeah, and you know what? John Farrell was the coach then, and he got fucking fired.
Yep.
So AJ Hinch, at the very least, needs to be fired from the Astros organization yesterday. The fact that they haven't made a move is also fucking crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think this probably goes pretty deep in the Astros, club, to like as a whole. If you're going to have this intricate system, how do you not know about it? And if it does get proven to be true, then it's just how big of the hammer is MLB going to swing? How many people are they going to take out?
Well, and they've already said that they're ready to basically levy the most unprecedented punishments of all time, of all baseball history, if this is true. If this all comes out to be a true thing, which so far all evidence points to yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see anything getting them out of this.
Hey, MLB, you wanted a major league team in Montreal.
Right.
Sounds like you can cross one team in Texas off of your list. I mean, it would be crazy if it came to that, but if it's really a conspiracy that high up in the organization, you know, if your manager is in on it, that's pretty high up.
Right.
Like that dude's like third in command on your team. Mm-hmm. And then you've got your president of baseball operations and the general manager. If they're all in on it, then the owners just need to fucking wash their hands of this, because obviously they let a corrupt empire loose underneath them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's plain as day. Trash can banging. That's not trying to hide it from anybody. Especially if you're on the team, you're sitting in the dugout or whatever you're doing, and you hear a bang every now and then. You're going to ask the dude next to you, hey, what does that mean? And then, you know, the word is going to get out throughout the club. And then whatever happens after that is up to them. Obviously, I don't think anyone said anything while they were a member of the Houston Astros.
Oh, and get this, like, you know, if you're a fan, a true baseball fan, you watch a lot of games. I noticed tendencies that other pitchers or things like that are doing. And when I listened to the broadcast, I listened a lot of times to what the pitches were, what the pitch sequence is. I'm sure there are other fans that do stuff like that pay attention to the pitch count and all that closely. And if you were watching that intently, and every time your pitcher threw a changeup, you heard a trash can, or, you know, you would catch on.
Absolutely.
If you're a fan of the Astros, you would definitely fucking catch on.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you would watch their games all the time, and you would hear this weird banging. If you watch another team, you're not going to pay attention to it because it's just stadium noise to you.
Yeah.
But if you're an Astros fan and you hear that every game, you'll notice the pattern. So Astros fans are just as much to blame for keeping this a secret as anybody. And this is one time that Adam actually has an alibi, because he's not a real fan.
I was just going to say, is he even a real fan? He tuned in for October and bounced out.
And even then he was studying for exams and just had it on as the background noise.
Yep. Another thing, you were mentioning people that are at the games and don't pay attention, or just for whatever reason didn't catch on to that. How did the umpires not catch on to that either?
That's a good point. I don't know. And I think MLB is going to have to really ask a lot of tough questions in the coming months. It's a good thing it's the off season because it gives them something to do and it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, because
And
I've got to think that home plate umpire had to have heard that.
Yeah, no, you're probably right, and I think a lot of people need to get asked some questions, which to them I can understand. They're sitting there focusing so intently on just calling the right pitch.
Yeah,
They're not listening to anything behind them. They train to tune out crowd noise because they're always hearing, peanuts here, get your popcorn, blah blah blah. They're hearing all kinds of loud shit behind them. So,
yeah, that's fair.
but at the same time, a trash can lid isn't a very common thing to hear getting banged. Anyway, we're going to be talking about this for weeks to come, but for the past few weeks in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens have been on a fucking tear. In those 4 weeks, they've had a bye, but the 3 games they played, Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, that's an MVP candidate right there. Beat them. The New England Patriots and Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, beat them. And just this past week, the Houston Texans and another MVP candidate in Deshaun Watson beat them soundly.
Yep.
They are the juggernauts of the NFL. They are the team to beat in the NFL right now, and they're hot at a good time when their schedule is light. They should just mow through it, breeze into the playoffs with a bye. I don't see them slowing down when it gets colder.
Yeah, no way. One thing that I have noticed and caught on to, thanks to Sports Center, was how good their defense is doing, and that's one thing that no one has talked about. When they played the Seahawks, they caused Russell Wilson to throw his first interception of the year and turn that into a pick six. This last week in Houston, they sacked Deshaun Watson 7 times. So, of course, you've got the three-headed monster and Lamar Jackson that's in the top talks of MVP, but they've also got a stout defense. Their secondary is legendary.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. And you're right. A lot of people aren't talking about their defense because it's being overshadowed by the offense that they run. And don't sleep on them. That's why I say I don't expect them to be a team that tapers off. No. They're going to keep the pedal to the metal, and that coach knows how to win.
Yep.
Unlike his brother.
Yeah, no shit. His brother could use some help.
Yeah, I always get confused, Jim or John. I think it's John as the coach in Baltimore.
Yep, that is correct.
I didn't want to say the wrong one in my immediate thought because I was about to say Jim.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't think they're going to taper off. They're going to be the team to watch. So all of you, if you're betting, if you're gambling on the Super Bowl this year, bet on the Ravens.
That's a good bet for sure.
So, good bet. Colin Kaepernick making it into the NFL, making it onto a roster. What do you think?
I mean, there's definitely teams that need someone that knows how to throw a football.
Well, that's not what I asked.
No, I know. I'm getting there. And there's teams that, are just, I mean, look at the Panthers, for example. It seems like Cam Newton is basically done there, and they don't have an answer for him. Name the plethora of teams that are just using some scrub that doesn't know how to play. But that doesn't mean that, anyone's going to necessarily pick him up. Honestly, this little, I don't even know what he called it, tryout. I don't know. Skills Expo, like whatever you want to call it.
PR stunt.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm going with. It was nothing that would indicate a starting quarterback level talent. He basically played catch with some guys. Like there was zero opposition. He threw the ball, and that's it. Like, what does that show me to make me believe that you can be a starting quarterback on an NFL team? Tim Tebow could do that. How many guys that just graduated high school last year could do that? How many guys that graduated college last year could do that? Tons.
That is very true. And all of those guys do that exact same thing when they're trying to become NFL quarterbacks. That's basically what they do at the NFL Combine.
Mhm.
Is they show their arm abilities. Can they throw the fastball? Can they throw a medium ball? Can they throw a deep ball? They want to see if you can do all these basic things as a quarterback without the distraction of a defense in the way,
Sure.
without a pass rush coming at you. So to that point, it's actually the equivalent to what they go through at the Combine.
Yes, I guess so. But at that same time, those guys that are in the Combine, you saw them play a real game months ago. You haven't seen Colin Kaepernick take a hit in 3 years.
Right. And if he gets a bunch of guys together to go out there and play football, everyone will be like, "Oh, but that's not NFL level talent. That's not, he's going to suck when he gets to the NFL." So there's always going to be that excuse. This is the benchmark that the NFL says quarterbacks have to go through to be evaluated to be a quarterback in the league. I think that's perfectly fair and justified.
Yeah, it's fair, but I mean, those dudes who are saying that like he's got an elite arm and stuff, yeah, sure. Wouldn't you, if you were a former quarterback, just throwing passes on a Saturday evening? Why would that have changed in 3 years? I think the point people need to look at here is he's been out of the game, and we have no idea what he's going to react to a defense or to, Aaron Donald breathing down his neck. That's the factor here that prevents someone from being an NFL quarterback.
No, and I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I can't dispute it. That is a true fact. But you've seen his ability in the past against an NFL pass rush. You've seen his ability in the past to throw on the big stage in the NFL. Remember, he was in a Super Bowl.
Yep.
He won an NFC championship.
Yep.
And then made it to the NFC championship the next year. So he's a winning quarterback.
Right. But there's a reason that he was put on a bench, and that was before he ever knelt.
And the season that he got benched, he had a quarterback rating in the high 90s. So it's not like he was sucking it up that bad. I mean, look at all the teams. You mentioned some of them. Look at all the teams that are in dire need of just a quarterback, much less a backup.
Right.
Carolina, perfect example. They obviously are done with Cam. They're ready to cut ties. Kyle Allen threw 4 picks this past Sunday.
Yep.
Against the Falcons.
Yep.
I know. I was excited to have Justin on here to be like, see, this is what happens. The Falcons suck at the beginning of the season, then they win out the rest of the season, and then we get a shitty draft pick, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing every week because he's right. That's what they do every year. And it sucks to be a Falcons fan in that regard.
Right.
So, but it is a theme.
Yeah, I get that. I think honestly, he's still tainted meat. I don't think a team is going to touch him. They should. Yeah, the Panthers have no reason to not pick him up, but I don't think they will.
And I just saw minutes before we came on, that the Panthers owner said that he's not interested.
Yeah. See, there you go. Like, who is he going to pick up from somewhere that's going to do better than this guy? There's slim pickings out there, but they won't do it. They won't touch him. They don't want that PR.
I mean, I get that, but at the same time, if he can help your team win, isn't that the name of the game?
You would think.
You have publicists and PR reps and people like that are supposed to be handling that kind of thing for you as a owner of this team. You think Jerry Jones handles his own press? No. He has people that do that shit for him. I'm not saying that the Cowboys should sign Kaepernick to be their backup because that's just probably not in the cards for them. It doesn't make sense. But going back to some of the teams that do, the fucking Bengals, look at them. They've already benched Andy Dalton. Their backup is a rookie. He sucks. The Bears, they just benched Trubinsky last night.
Yep.
The Steelers, who knows what's up with Mason Rudolph? Is he going to last? Is Big Ben going to retire? The Lions, Matt Stafford has that freaky injury, and their backup's terrible.
Yep. What's
going to happen with Stafford? Like, his wife just recovered from cancer, and now he's got a fucking crazy injury.
Yeah,
he might just
go ahead.
He just might hang it up after this and say, "Hey, I'm done."
Yeah, he's got some sort of back injury. I don't know what it entails, but yeah, it was season ending. So yeah,
he might just Andrew Luck it and say, "Deuces."
Yep, I've been beat up enough.
I mean, he played for the Lions for his entire career. That man took a beating.
Absolutely.
He deserves to retire and keep all that money that he's been guaranteed.
Yeah. But I think no matter the outcome, this is a win-win for Kaepernick.
It's a good time for Kaepernick. And I think that's ultimately why the NFL gave him a tryout and all that stuff, is because owners realize they are in dire need of a quarterback, and they're running out of options in college. And then boom, Tua goes down. There's another quarterback down, and you don't know if he's ever coming back. He had the same injury that Bo Jackson did.
Yep. And he's damn sure not going to be ready to go next year when he would be in the NFL. So they're going to have to, whoever was scouting him for the number one pick is definitely going to have to rethink their whole draft strategy.
Right. It makes you think Tua's going to stay in Alabama for his senior year. And who knows if he'll even be able to play then.
Yep.
So you're going to draft a guy that high that doesn't really play his senior year at college, and all you have to go on is his resume before all that. That's dropping him down to the second, third round, man.
And that immediately makes him severely injury prone. This is his second big injury of the year.
Right. Yeah, you got it. He had a minor ankle surgery 3 weeks ago, but 2 weeks before the LSU game is when he had it. Right. And he had that same surgery on his other ankle last year before the national title game. So he's broken, man. He's fragile.
Yep. You don't get any stronger as you get older.
No. Yeah, especially in that sport where he's prone to take a beating. I hope it's not one of those things where it lines up to where he falls to New England to where New England has a chance to take him in the draft or whatever. Ugh. Because Justin predicted that this guy was going to be the greatest of all time. You remember that?
I do. That was a interesting take.
Yeah, I thought so too. Ugh.
I try not to say that about anyone who has less than 3 or 4 years in the NFL.
Yeah, it's hard to get a good read on guys early anymore because they can have breakout seasons and then fall off the map. Last week we talked about it. Is Lamar this year's Patrick Mahomes?
Yep.
And Patrick Mahomes was last year's Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. Remember, he came in his rookie season and set the world on fire. And then next thing you know, everyone's joking and laughing about how the Cowboys and Dak suck.
Yep. And he at least has a great running back that he can hand the ball off to.
And look at Carson Wentz. He was the MVP of the league or the runner-up one year. I can't remember if he won it the year he got injured or if he was the runner-up. But I know he was MVP talks, and all the hype was around him. Now look at him. Yeah, dog shit. They fall off. And that's why Tom Brady is the greatest. That's why Drew Brees is one of the greatest. That's why Peyton Manning was one of the greatest. Big Ben, one of the greatest, because year in, year out, those guys are consistent.
Absolutely.
You're not the greatest if you just have a great season and then a crap rest of your career.
Right. Once defenses have some tape on you, can you then do as good or close to it as you did? Can you change it up enough to where they can't predict everything you're going to do?
It's just like baseball. You get those September call-ups, the rookies from Double-A that come up to the bigs. Nobody has any tape on them, and they throw a no-hitter. And then the next year when they get the real call-up to the bigs, they get knocked around for the first few weeks because everybody knows what kind of shit they throw now.
Yep. That's for sure.
So next year, who knows? Lamar Jackson might struggle, but this year they're steamrolling.
Yeah. Yeah. If they can pull it off this year, then they'll be golden. But yeah, look out for a slump next year. Yeah. It's hard to say.
I don't want to predict that on them because right now they're rolling, and I'm excited to have them as a fantasy owner. Woo.
Yeah. Yep, good stuff. I've got their defense. I picked that up 2 weeks ago off of waivers. Just
nice.
On a whim, I saw that the Eagles were playing the Eagles were on a bye, and I picked them up, and they've been very good so far.
What's your record in the league now?
I think I'm 5-6.
Okay.
That's how many games we've played.
Yes, because I'm 6-5 after this week.
Yeah, I have one less win than you do.
I've climbed my way out of the gutters.
You have.
And with 4 straight wins, including knocking off the number 1 team in the league, I'm now comfortably in playoff contention, comfortably in the hunt. Hopefully I can knock off at least one more guy and get a second seed and get a bye. That would be nice for the first round.
Yep, definitely.
But that's lofty. I would have to win out and they would have to lose. So
right. Yeah, you're sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, my team's finally clicking. I made that one trade and got Connor and Cooks offloaded because and I hate to do it, but since then they've been injured. I think Connor finally came back and played a little bit, but Dak had a good week for Janice, but that's about the only good thing that's happened for him out of the trade. I feel kind of bad for him, but at the same time, I feel very good for myself. And he had Lamar Jackson on the bench most of the season in favor of Deshaun Watson anyway, so it's not like he was really using him.
Yep, and he could have always said no to the trade.
That's true. So I'm sitting pretty now, and that belt, it's coming home, baby.
Hopefully.
I need to win. I need to win this thing.
It's good to have in the home.
Yeah, it would be like right here. You know that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Just proudly displayed for all to see for the entire year.
Yep.
And sure. I would probably reference it every single episode for that year. So get ready, people.
Yep.
Let's see. What other craziness happened this week? Oh, yeah. Thursday night football. The Browns and the Steelers. Pretty normal, regular game. The Browns won the game 21-7. It was played pretty straight up for the most part until the final 8 seconds. Then all hell broke loose. We've all seen the footage by now. We all know what it is. So, Zach, what's your take? What do you think? He indefinitely suspended. Yes.
It was something out of an NFL Blitz video game. I mean, I didn't see it. I had gone to bed. But in the morning, it was everywhere. Me and a coworker of mine went out to lunch, and it was on every TV in the place. It was crazy. And I didn't honestly know that Mason Rudolph is at the quarterback.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much of a shit stirrer he was at the beginning. Apparently, he had hit Miles Garrett in the nuts first, and he did some other shit to him.
Right. See, and that's how the story broke is, initially it was, oh my God, that big football player smacked this other football player in the head with his helmet. And it was like, oh shit. And then more and more people saw the video, and then the video got dissected and analyzed. And you see that, you know, Miles Garrett comes around on the blind side and gets a sack on Mason Rudolph. Rudolph throws the ball as Miles hits him, and they kind of wrestle down to the ground. Well, I guess Rudolph took exception to Miles Garrett still hitting him and trying to tackle him after he, threw the ball away or whatever, and was trying to rip his helmet off as they fell to the ground, and then still as they were on the ground was ripping his helmet off. And then as Garrett was standing up, Rudolph tried to kick him in the nuts. And then once Garrett was being pulled back by all the other guys, Rudolph then got up off the ground and then charged again. That's when his helmet got ripped off. And Garrett just kind of swung the helmet over the top of all the other guys. It did hit him in the head. It hit him in the head with the bottom side of the helmet. I think it would have been much more lethal had it been with the crown of the helmet.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to be a knock that knocked Rudolph out cold or unconscious or anything. No, he immediately threw up his hands like, what the fuck?
Yep.
And I mean, he seemed fine. He might have had a concussion. I don't know. I didn't hear that part, but the memes have been hilarious.
They have. It's funny to see something evolve from football player swings helmet and hits another football player in the head to this guy was doing some shit to piss someone off, and this was the repercussions of that. Granted, it's not cool to ever hit somebody with a fucking helmet, but it's not like Miles Garrett just went out there and decided, I'm going to hit him in the head. He was provoked, and they both got pissed off at each other, and this is what it boiled up to.
So an indefinite suspension is what's been announced or whatever. I think it should be a fine and a suspension for the remainder of the season. It's not like the Browns are going to make the playoffs anyway, so it's not like it's really hurting the team that much. I know he's a big part of that team, but I mean, come on. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, and then he can come back next season. This is his first strike, his first offense. It's not like he's a guy that is known for causing trouble or trying to hurt people or trying to take out anybody. He's not a notorious dirty player. I think he gets another chance. Yep. He was caught in a moment, and he was provoked.
Yeah, I think this was just an immediate response from the NFL. I think they want to set a precedent that this is, obviously not cool, and they want to kind of tighten up things and make it at least appear safer for fans and whoever else. But I think they're going to just eventually come out and say that this season was his suspension, whether they do it, next year or during the postseason or whatever. But I think he'll be back next year.
I agree. I think that he definitely needs to not be in the building December 1st when the two teams meet again, because that would just probably set off a lot of things on both sides. Tempers are going to be at a fever pitch anyway, especially since Rudolph hasn't been punished at all for his part in the interaction, which I think he should. I'm not condoning hitting anybody in the head with a helmet or anything like that, but he started the shit. He should at least get something out of it.
I believe some of the players that were involved in shoving and whatever else have gotten some sort of suspension as well.
Yeah, Pouncey, one of the guys that was seen throwing punches and kicks, got 3 games, and one of the guys that ran in and shoved Rudolph in the end got 1 game suspension.
So if Rudolph comes out of this unscathed, or he doesn't get any punishment, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I agree.
1 or 2 games or something.
Yeah, because he started it. It's plain as day that he started it. NFL needs to own up and realize, like, hey, fair is fair. He started this shit.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, he got hit. But guess what? If a bar fight breaks out, they don't just say the guy that beat your ass is in trouble if you were the one that was, provoking him. If other people around are like, yeah, he was being the asshole, he was being a drunk dick, then you're going to jail too, buddy.
Yep.
You got your ass beat and you get to spend the night in the drunk tank.
Yep. And there's no excuse for now, at least, because there's video of the whole thing. There's just, I don't know why the NFL hasn't done anything. It's kind of weird because we all know the truth now. At first, it was just the huge highlight of Myles Garrett hitting him in the head with the helmet. But now we know the truth, where it wasn't just Myles Garrett being a fucking asshole.
Right.
Mason Rudolph was the asshole.
Right. Absolutely. Anyway, Patriots survived the Eagles. Moving on to more of this Sunday's action. Patriots, man, their offense is terrible.
It's a weird thing to hear someone say.
It is, but you think about one of their touchdowns was scored by a trick play. It was a behind the lines pass from Tom to Julian Edelman, who then threw it to Philip Dorsett for the touchdown. That was their only touchdown of the game. The rest of the game, they were held to 3 field goals. They got a 2-point conversion to make it 17-10 as a final score. Not very prolific for the best team in football.
Yep.
Their defense has been great. Don't get me wrong. Their defense is still incredible. They hit the stumbling block that was the Baltimore Ravens. But other than that, they've been stellar. But that offense, not good. They had a takeaway inside the Eagles 20, inside the red zone. And they settled for a field goal.
That's rough.
It's rough to watch, man.
What do you think the issue is?
I'm not sure. The run game is terrible. I think that's where it starts. I think the run game is bad, but I think it's bad because the blocking is bad.
Yeah.
The blocking is bad because Rob Gronkowski retired. James Devlin got hurt. We've got some of our linemen from previous seasons have gone on to other teams and such. So as new offensive linemen, it's just everything is starting to collapse and crumble around. It's still good enough to win games and stuff, as you see, but that offense needs some attention. The defense is great. That offense needs some work. It's not going to be a championship winning offense as is.
Yeah, I think just from how Tom Brady plays, we can all assume that a good offensive line is paramount. And if that starts to break down, then that's not good.
No, and everyone's been talking about Gronk's big announcement that's coming out tomorrow. He's been teasing it. He's been toying with everyone's emotions, but he's not coming back.
No, there's no way. My
official on the record guess is that this is an announcement for his CBD company.
Yep, 100%. Once he came out with that video, that touching video of him getting emotional, talking about his health issues that he had in the NFL, and then he found that CBD had helped him, I knew he was about to get into the CBD game, and he wouldn't be coming back. Like, you don't make some sort of big announcement and big to-do like that if you're just going to come back and play football. If he was going to come back and play football, he would have just hung out at home, And one random week you would have seen on the news wire, hey, Gronkowski's back, but not the case. He's done for.
Yep, I think you're right. And I 100% think that this announcement is something to do with the CBD business or a charity that he's a part of or something like that. And he knows that his name is going to generate a big buzz. So by announcing it beforehand, it generates that buzz and gets all this free attention,
Yep.
free advertisement for whatever it is that he's about to say.
Yep. And I think this is for the better for him health wise. I mean, I'm pretty sure doctors have been telling him for a couple of years now that he should retire just to avoid any further brain damage.
I almost wore my Gronk jersey tonight so that the YouTube viewers would think that I was going to make some big like prediction that Gronk was coming or something. But at the end of the day, I know he's not coming back. So I'm not going to tease it. I'm not going to pretend like it's a truth when I know that it's nothing more than just fan fantasies.
Right.
Although the New England Patriots could probably use a 6'6", 285-pound tight end right about now.
Yep, those are good to have.
Yeah, they're pretty handy.
Yes, sir.
Few and far between, though.
Yeah.
Nick Foles came back for the Jags this week, and rude awakening.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, most of the listeners know that every Sunday I watch Jags football because that's what we do here in Jacksonville. We watch the Jags and we support them whether they win or lose. And I have a standing appointment with my brother-in-law that we like to kick back, eat some good food, and watch the Jags every Sunday. So that's my ritual. So I get to see him up close and in person, so to say, every week. And boy, oh boy, Nick wasn't terrible. I don't put the loss on him because he threw for over 300 yards, had 2 touchdowns, but the Jags in general are just terrible. Their defense is atrocious. If you're a fantasy owner, drop them.
Yep.
Get somebody else. Don't hang on to the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. They are bad at defense. And It sucks because 2 years ago they were Saxonville, man. They were eating up people. They rode that defense all the way to the AFC Championship game. Should have won it. To be honest, they should have beat the Patriots in that game had it not been for the refs blowing it on what was it? Miles Jack. He picked up a fumble and kind of did a forward roll. Wasn't touched. Got up and would have ran it for 6. But they ruled him down because they said somebody touched him. And it was before all the replays and all that stuff, before New Orleans fans cried for an entire offseason and got the rules changed.
Which hasn't done jack shit.
Which now makes it even more laughable because it shows how wrong they are, but they still don't fucking care. Yeah. I think they've only changed something like 8% of pass interference calls or non-calls this season. Yeah. And some of them were like very questionable that they should have been overturned, and they're still like, nope, sticking to our guns.
Have you seen the DeAndre Hopkins one from yesterday?
No, I didn't see it yet.
He was smothered by whatever defensive back was on him. It was absolutely egregious. No call. They challenge, and the call stands. And it was just like, how? How did someone see that replay and say, yep, all good here?
Refgate 2.0.
It's insane.
It strikes again. It's struck with the coin toss not long ago, too. Like, what was it, last Monday night, I think it was? The coin toss where you couldn't tell if he said heads or tails, but it sounded like he said heads. The coin toss ended up being tails. All kinds of crazy shit,
Players should start saying hails or Teds or something.
It really fuck with them, huh? Anyway, that's all the NFL I got. Let's clear the benches with some MMA talk. Ben Askren, after 3 fights in the UFC, a 1-2 record, decides to retire.
Sure does.
I mean, he was brought to the UFC late in his career, which is unfortunate. But once he got to the UFC, he realized that them boys don't play. The
Yep.
first 8 seconds that he was in the octagon, he had been dumped on his head and almost knocked out by Robbie Lawler.
Holy fuck. Yeah, he had a rude awakening, and that just goes to show in the MMA world, there's UFC caliber talent and there's everybody else. No one holds a candle to UFC talent. And people will say this guy in Bellator is good, this guy in whatever is good. And that might be true. But when stacked up against the best, they become mediocre.
Yeah, it's almost the difference of being in AAA and then coming up to the major leagues and realizing that, oh, everybody here has a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. I'm not special anymore.
Absolutely. The fight with Ben Askren was a great fight. He really survived some insane shit. And it was all but over after that. I mean, obviously, the freak knee from Jorge Masvidal. And then what should have been a very good matchup for him, a jiu-jitsu guy going against a wrestler. The jiu-jitsu guy subbed him outright. And
which it was third round. That fight was fight of the night. So he went out on a great fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what kind of made it easier for him to retire is, hey, I went out on a good fight. It wasn't, like you said, a flash knockout knee, a highlight reel knee for Masvidal, don't get me wrong. But, you know, shit, he ran into one.
Yep.
And it wasn't a controversial finish like with Lawler, because a lot of people question that stoppage.
Right.
But Damian Maia legitimately beat him in a 3-round fight. And I think that's what he wanted. He wanted to put on a good show at least once in the UFC.
Right.
And then he felt okay to hang him up. Because I believe he had retired before he officially came to the UFC. I think he had hung him up and said, all right, I'm not fighting anymore unless it's for the UFC.
I'm not sure on that.
I'm sure Wallow will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he had said something about that at one point.
I mean, it makes sense. He's not young. He's in his mid-30s.
He's 35.
That's pretty old for a fighter. I mean,
he's got the same body that we do.
Yeah, you're not getting any better at that age. So, and all you're doing is fighting young guys that are hungry, which he didn't fight any of those guys minus Jorge Masvidal. But nonetheless, I think if he would have made it to the UFC a little earlier in life, he probably would have had more success. But him and Dana had a huge falling out. And they just didn't like each other, and Dana didn't like his antics, so it just never happened.
It's kind of funny. I text you the news as soon as I saw it that Askren had retired, and your response was to just type ha 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 ha, and I thought to myself, I bet that was Dana White's exact reaction.
Absolutely.
He was laughing, saying, "I told you so," all the way home.
Yep, Dana signed him, and he was like, "All right, motherfucker, I'll let you fight here. What's the worst that could happen?" And then that happens, and he's out. So
yep, it's a win for Dana.
Yep.
What else you got MMA wise? You said that you wanted to talk about a few things.
Yeah, I listened to the most recent Locker Room Talk podcast, and they were talking about John Jones and Israel Adesanya going back and forth on Twitter, and they weren't sure why. And I figured I could give some insight on the situation. When Stylebender beat Anderson Silva, in some sort of interview, he said, somebody asked him about John Jones, and he said, something along the lines of, I beat one GOAT or one legend, why not beat another? And of course, John took offense, and they started talking back and forth, and it's just kind of been back and forth from there.
That makes a lot of sense that it was a slow build like that, because Wallow did say when I was on the call with him that Israel wants to spend a few fights at 185, but he's already said then he wants to go up to 205. So maybe that was part of that, was he wants to be the king of 185 and then he wants to go slay 205.
Yeah.
And I mean, taking out John Jones at 205 would be taking out the GOAT of 205.
Right. I think what we're seeing is a huge super fight in the making.
I think you're absolutely right, and I'm for it.
Absolutely. I would love to see that. I think
It sounds like it's a few years away.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope John isn't done before that happens.
Because that's the only thing you have to worry about whenever it's a guy that's, considerably older, that's considered the GOAT of sport. Like Stylebender went through Anderson Silva when Anderson Silva was an old Anderson Silva. It wasn't Anderson the Spider Silva in his record-breaking UFC title defense stretch.
Right.
He had come back after that vicious broken leg and all that stuff. So he wasn't the same man.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I hope it happens a year and a half would be ideal. I mean, honestly, there's not much for him to do at 185. He's got the title. I guess he can defend it a couple times. But I mean, if I'm John, I'm looking for a super fight. I think he needs one. DC's not in the cards. I don't think he's going to move up to heavyweight. He said he doesn't want to. He just wants to be the king of light heavyweight. There ain't shit going on in light heavyweight. Johnny Walker ain't coming anytime soon. So I think the only chance for him to have a super fight is if Stylebender comes up.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like that's happening anytime soon. So what do we get for the next 2 years of John Jones? Stale fights where he's just beating up the same guys that he's already fought?
I guess.
I would like to see Corey Anderson get a shot after what he just did to Johnny Walker. Maybe throw him in a good fight with John Jones. That would be like, now John Jones is at the point where we want to see him in good fights. We don't want to see him just walking through guys. You want to see him get tested. You want to see if he's really all that. And I want to see him against these guys that are young and hungry. But you're right. The 205 is not as exciting as some of these other divisions that are full of killers.
Yep. Yeah, the 205 weight class is not what it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be the premier weight class of UFC.
Yep.
The best of the best were at 205 back in the day, but now it's just another weight class.
It's an odd weight in and of itself, because most guys who can make 205 are heavyweights walking around.
Sure.
And then
they walk at 225.
Yeah. And that they either have to pick one or the other. Are they gonna fight a guy who could potentially be 265 pounds, or are they gonna cut some weight and fight a 205er? And then if you're on Stylebender's side of it, he can make 185, but I'm sure he walks around at maybe 210 or somewhere around there. And you've got to worry about the guys who are bigger than you that can make it to 205. So it's a very strange little weight class.
Well, and that's why you see some guys make such extreme cuts. Like, oh God, Darren Till. We were talking about that. He used to get all the way down to 170.
Yeah. He's a monster.
And he's huge at 185. He got down to 170.
Yeah. Yeah. He basically killed himself.
Yeah. Like, he depleted anything that was inside of him. He depleted it all just to make that weight.
I want to see UFC come out with hydration tests. I think that's the next big thing for UFC. I think if I had a magic wand and I could dictate what the UFC does, I would reel in USADA a little bit. I would get rid of this like down to the picogram level testing, and I would implement some sort of hydration tests, because I think this whole weight cut bullshit needs to be scaled back. It's an old time thing that is left over, and it's retarded, because you're not fighting at 185. You're fighting it however big you can get in a day. So what the fuck is the point of it? I understand you have to have a set weight limit so that players so that fighters can fight someone that's relatively close to their body weight. But with this weight cut stuff, that's not the case. It's how far can you go, and then how big can you get after that. But with a hydration test, it almost makes it impossible. You can drop 5-10 pounds, and that's it. You can't do these drastic weight cuts that are fucking people up.
Well, and things like that need to be implemented all the way down throughout even the amateur ranks, because some of these guys, the UFC guys, they have an entire team of people and a lot of money behind them in all of this stuff. So they have state-of-the-art medical equipment in their facilities ready to go in case something bad happens with one of these guys that is doing this extreme cut. Some of these amateurs are, still doing the trash bags and going for runs on 95-degree days. Yep. And they could black out in the middle of the fucking road.
Right.
And no one's around to help them. They're, so these tests and things like that could eventually save lives on amateur circuits or whatever. And that could, we talk about boxing being so dangerous or whatever. This could also be part of that, because the guys are cutting this weight and their weight loss has fluctuated so much that they're not properly hydrated. So that brain's just rattling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A
lot of times when you see a guy go down on just a touch of the chin, it's because their brain is depleted and they can't, you're not in a physical state that allows you to take damage like that. Your brain's like, well, we're compromised already. We can't do this shit.
Well, there's also a place right there on the side of the chin called the button. And if you hit it, no matter how much water you've had, you're going out.
Sure.
So, and that's true. That is very true. I've seen a lot of people get knocked out just from the slightest little punch right there.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
What a weird defense mechanism. Like, how could that do anything? Just go to sleep when someone hits you.
I don't know. Maybe it's the whole play dead thing.
Yeah, I guess.
It's your body's way of just playing dead. But
Yeah, so.
I would think if someone was attacking me, they're still going to probably keep attacking.
Yeah.
Or if I'm unconscious, they're going to rob me or whatever. So, yeah, you're right. It is a very odd odd thing that we do as people that we haven't evolved from or on from. But I guess as long as we keep making bitch-made people, we're going to have bitch-made fucking mechanisms.
Yep, just little weak meat vehicles with this giant-ass brain.
Yep, fucking A. Anyway, I'm out of shit to talk about before we start getting on a wild rant.
Yeah, I've got a little something in the works. I don't know who I'm going to have on, but Chris from Locker Room Talk has said that he'd like to come on. I'd like to do one of our bonus episodes about hunting. It's something that I've kind of been interested in for a while now, but it's not something that you can necessarily just jump in and try. There's a lot of equipment you have to have. Of course, you have to have a rifle, or you have to know someone that will let you borrow their stuff.
And not to mention licenses. You have to be legally certified to do all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got to know where to go. You got to know what to look for, how to find a deer. So I want to have at least him on and maybe some other people, and just kind of shoot the shit about how to start hunting, how to get into that, good practices and stuff like that, and see if it's something viable that's worth trying.
Cool. I'm not much of a hunter, so if any of our listeners out there know anything about hunting and might want to add their 2 cents or jump on and talk with Zach, then hit us up. Let us know. Let us know what your expertise are. We would love to hear from you. I would love to hear an episode like this happen because I don't know shit about it, and I'm sure it would be informative as hell.
Yeah, I put feelers out on Sportszilla, and several people have commented, and one guy even showed a picture of the buck that he got this year. So I kind of figured that there would be at least a few people on the group that dabbled in hunting. And if you don't want to come on for a full episode or whatever, you can leave a message, or you can just post something on Sportszilla or whatever. And
you could call in. We have a number. Just give them the time to call in and have them call in.
Yeah, we'll just kind of have a collection of everyone's thoughts and then talk about some shit on a bonus episode coming up soon.
Yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, let us know, let Zach know if you want to be part of that or have anything to say about that. And in other news, we've got about 2 more weeks until we have Ian back for our Throwback Thursday, the first Thursday in December. So that'll be cool. He's been streaming some new stuff, and he's actually got some new merch coming from his sponsor soon.
Nice.
They got the licenses to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, um, a couple others I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was like, damn, all right, they're doing your merch big over there.
Yeah, that's
So,
fun.
and their shirts are hella cheap. They're only like $12, $13 or whatever. A lot cheaper than ours.
Yeah, that's good.
We need them to sponsor us. They seem to crank shit out for them.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyway, one day we'll get there. Thanks for listening, guys. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If this is your first time listening, then we definitely appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button. We drop bonus episodes usually on Wednesdays and Thursdays of the week, and every week we drop a Monday night episode that usually recaps the weekend sports. So that's what we do. We'd love to hear from you. We're out of here. Peace.
Stay connected with Brandon and Zach on Facebook and Instagram at the Nest Podcast. And tune in next week for a brand new episode. And thanks for listening.